Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Inside Out on the Road, a show where we focus on individual stocks. With in-depth analysis, we also deep dive into financials, but also alert you about the key risk and the triggers going forward. Well, let's get straight to the first stock today. My colleague Sonal gets us his very special deep dive on Welspun Living.
Welspun Living is a prominent leader in the home textile segment with a strong global presence in over 50 countries. Their product range includes bath linen, bed linen, rugs and carpets, wet wipes, needle punch as well. They cater to major clients such as Walmart, Costco, Macy's, Tesco and IKEA. This is about the global setup and a lot in the domestic markets as well. Additionally, Welspun Living is diversified into flooring, contributing approximately 10% to their revenues. And there have been fluctuations and headwinds in the global markets. Let's talk about their financials in that case. The revenue for 9 months stands at 7,100 crore rupees, which compares with around 8,100 crores in FY23 and 9,300 in FY22. There have been variations in EBITDA margins and they have been between 14 to 18% during this period, and profits have been between 200 to 550 crore rupees. The company has strong presence in export markets, the key markets like USA and UK. So to understand their strategy going forward, the penetration, the supply side and the overall business, let's take a deep dive and speak to the management now. Okay, as promised, it's time to understand everything about Welspun Living, the strategy, the supply chain, and a lot more. Joining me today is Ms. Dipali Goenka, the MD and CEO of the company. Such a pleasure to have you with us, closer to Women's Day as well. So there's so much to talk about. But first up, let's start with the basics. And I want to understand, when an investor is looking at your company, do they look at you like a retailer? Do they look at you like a textile company? Because you're across the supply chain, I believe. Can you explain to us those various steps in the supply chain? Where do we see Welspun Living there?
So I'll tell you one thing. Welspun Living is a new name that we, changed a couple of months back, and it actually really defines what Welspun India is now. It is a complete home solutions company. So we are into home textiles. We have our factories across Anjar, Vapi, and Telangana. Completely integrated supply chains, vertically integrated for spinning, weaving, processing, and the cut and sew for towels, sheets, rugs, fashion bedding, but now flooring as well. We're doing the hard flooring, which you can set up in 6 hours, or the wall-to-wall carpets, the carpet tiles, and also the baby wipes and the wet wipes. So it is about now, I can say it is about a woman, what she needs in that 24 hours. And I think that's what it defines. It's not just about home textiles, it is about home solutions. More so, I must tell you, because we have never worked as a manufacturer. We've always kept the consumer in mind, whether it's a consumer in America, UK, Europe, Southeast Asia, or India. We have a brain trust in America where we reach out to 3,000 home enthusiasts who talk about what is relevant to them. Or so, it is like we always say, in principle, we are a home solution company and also an FMCG for textiles.
Okay, FMCG for textiles and home solutions company. In that case, since you're saying you're across the supply chain, are you able to control or take stock of what's happening on the supply side when it comes to crop plantation, when then it comes to your factory, you're talking about spinning, and then ultimately it's going to the consumer's house? How do supply side issues impact you, or how do you deal with them?
So definitely, I'll tell you, textiles is a complex supply chain, and I must tell you, we actually cotton is an integral part of what we do in home textiles, right? We are working with farmers as well. in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, and in Telangana. And we work with, our teams are working with them, showing them how the crop needs to be grown. And we have the BCI crop, the Better Cotton Initiative crops that are growing across these fields. So the entire supply chain, and we have actually experts, buying our cotton. And also the traceability and the entire blockchain is completely looked at when we buy our cotton. Very interesting thing in the phenomena that's happening in the supply chain of cotton is that India is now not only the biggest producer of cotton, but the biggest exporter of cotton. Because the Xinjiang cotton in China actually basically has been now disrupted, and it's India which has become the prime sourcing country for cotton. Even when when you're talking about the United States of America, during the disruption that happened with the supply chain, we actually partnered with a startup called Shipsy, which actually tells us where our ships are, on the go, and whether they're hitting the shores, and how does that, reach our warehouses. So the entire visibility, I would say, in short, from the point of sale to the manufacturing to our vendors is completely, we have a visibility on that as well.
You spoke about US, you spoke about Europe, you do have a big clientele there as well. We speak about geographical headwinds sometimes, and that's what we've been talking about in the US for the last couple of quarters as well. Is there any plan to change that mix? Would you keep focusing on the US, and how do you tap clients?
America, let's talk about the entire world right now in the terms of the headwinds that you spoke about. I've always maintained that USA actually is the most resilient economy. I know the Fed rates and the highest inflation at 8%, which was like the highest ever. But it has come down. The Fed is going to cut the rates this year, and the inflation is bit controlled now. It's around 3.4%. We're also looking at people projected the growth in America. With that kind of GDP of a country, we will maintain a steady state of growth of around 2.4% this year as well in America, in the terms of the overarching economy that we're looking at. Europe and UK are a little challenging though, as we see. India is the brighter spot, and of course GCC as well. Like, you see how the KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is like shaping up, and, they're opening up the entire economy and the development there. So I see this is the way we are looking at it. It's kind of a mixed bag. And now, having said that, our operations remain in America as well. We are spread across the globe. We right now have 3 warehousings, one in Tacoma on the West Coast, Midwest, we have in Ohio, Grove City, the other in Suffolk, and we have our offices in New York and even in Bentonville, and our design studios across, because I think you need to have the pulse of the country as well. UK, we have our offices for Christie in Manchester, which is our own brand, and which also services that side. We also have a warehousing in Germany, Munich, to service our hospitality partners. And of course, India. India has our factories and our offices as well, and our design studios as well.
Okay, interesting. So, when you speak about Europe, you speak about US as well. How much is export as a part of the overall revenue pie? And do you see margins better? Are you able to sell at a better price when you go abroad?
So I must talk about a few things here to you. We will continue to have a pie of exports, and India growing, of course. So if I say, by 2026, end of 2026-27, we are looking at, 45% of our emerging businesses taking on the centerfold. That is our domestic retail, our flooring and advanced textile, and the rest will continue to grow. We are targeting around 15,000 crores by end of 2026, and that's the steady state that we're going to be maintaining. So it's going to be a story together. So India definitely is evolving. The CAGR of 30% will be maintained here. USA will be a very integral part of our strategy, of course, and along with Europe and UK. Now, when you talked about the margins and everything, let me just give you a perspective. We are working with the private labels and all the retailers. We are the strategic partners to most of them. And the interesting thing is the share of shelf. And the share of shelf could be in a form of private label or the licenses. We have a license for Martha Stewart in America, We also work with influencers there who actually give us that opportunity to not only talk about towel and sheets, but different things like, fashion bedding, flannel, throws, cushions. So that actually gives you the share of shelf, not only in, the retailers that we work with, but the other retailers. Now, UK and Europe, we have a license for Disney there. And you would look at a steady state of, the retailers who work there. But there are a lot of retailers in East Europe, the other parts of Europe as well, that we get an access to. That again is a very interesting opportunity that we see. And of course, India, with the brands like Spaces and Welspun that we have. So margins are something that will be will I think always be, you have to work with the consumer at the centerfold. How competitive are you? And I think when you're in a global arena, where we are as Welspun and also the other Indian manufacturers, I think we're competing with the rest of the world. And I think how competitive can we be is a very important and interesting opportunity that we are looking at. And I think it's an opportunity.
So, you mentioned that you'll be able to do 15,000 crore rupees of revenues by 2026. That's an interesting number. That would mean a CAGR of 27%, right?
Yes.
Will there be additional products coming in that kitty, or the geographical split that you spoke about, GCC, India contributing a lot, that is the factor for this number?
You know what? There are huge opportunities here. So now when I talk about, one is the products that we are talking about. Now let me talk about flooring here. Which actually will be around 2,700 crores in year of 26, end of 26-27 that time. We basically have a great opportunity there. The China Plus One really plays a big role here, where USA, UK, Europe, and India. Look at the kind of institutions and hospitality that are developing. So I think that's something that we will definitely work on. Retail, we are talking about 1,700 crores by that time. That again is a great opportunity. We already are present in more than 17,000 stores, targeting around 50,000 stores that by that time. Again, that's another opportunity. Different products, because of our licenses that we have, could be something that we're working on. There's another brand that we have is Christie, which does the towel for Wimbledon. That is something will become a very big D2C play as we grow forward. And also, I think this is the time when, you're talking about where the opportunities also could be inorganic.
Is there a kitty that you have in mind for inorganic opportunities? Because you've spoken about it earlier as well in conversation with CNBC-TV18, and you did indicate that if there is a possibility, we are up for it. Is there something in mind? What kind of inorganic opportunity?
We are exploring a lot of them. It could be in the terms of a product, in the terms of a kind of a distribution, like you have your offline and online. There are other opportunities there as well. So yeah, looking at acquiring something that can add value to us, and could be not only, it could be a different market accretive, or a top line accretive, or a margin accretive. So yeah, we'll explore that, and yeah, there are opportunities.
We've spoken about a whole host of things. Let's see the products as well, because that's an interesting kitty. So let's go for that, and we'll discuss. Take the discussion forward. Let's go. Okay, so we've come here and there's so many products, so that looks pretty cool. You've spoken about a lot of capex. It's happening at Anjar, it's happening generally globally. What's the kitty that you have in mind for that? What would it do to your balance sheet in terms of your debt, and how do you maintain the working capital in that case?
So, so the plant that's coming in Anjar will ramp up our complete jacquards and the fashion bath towels and towels there. And it is around, the investment is around 430 crores. But let me just tell you, while this investment is all very, very focused, even the pillow plant in America, we definitely are going to maintain our debt at, sub 1,000. That's it. And, that's what we wanted to, and we're talking about net zero by 2026. And I always believe that there is if there's an opportunity, go for it. Because I think if the business looks good, and if there's an opportunity, there is some kind of, that we can take on the market share there, and leadership there, is something we'll continue to evolve as well.
And that can be seen on ground as well. So CNBC Changemaker, congratulations on that. That's amazing. How do you look at Welspun Living as a brand, say 10 years down the line? What are your strategies that you think are different and you've not spoken to anybody about it?
So, of course, India will be at the heart of what we do because, yes, India is that bright spot and the opportunity is immense here. And definitely that's going to be a very important aspect of it. So, we are continuing to grow here through MBOs. We're also looking at the FOFOs as well. So, that will be something that we will be doing from, Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Anjar to, Assam is what we are looking at the base to be. And it will continue to grow here. But I will also not lose sight on my other markets as well, because I feel United States will continue to evolve as well. And India is in a very sweet spot for everyone. You're looking at a lot of people committing to, buying from India. Like look at Walmart, $10 billion. There's Uniqlo who's looking at India. Everybody is looking at India becoming a part of their sourcing supply chain. I think that's humongous. We cannot neglect that and oversight that. So yes, that's again a very interesting opportunity. Hospitality, let me tell you, is again very important. So while we're talking about retail chains, but America as well are positioning in a lot of the IHG properties that you go to and the other in India as well. You look at that becoming a very interesting space for us.
What, according to you, apart from, of course, the big growth story in India, US being a resilient economy, could be a possible risk that you think, if it comes by, we are ready for it? It's something that is a possibility.
I think there's a risk everywhere, and I always say that we anyway are very cautiously optimistic about whatever we do. But we saw that 2 years back in the terms of our commodities, in the terms of cotton, coal, and the entire supply chain. It went for a toss, right? Cotton just went up like absolutely as if it was like gold. Coal, the entire energy basket was completely awry. The whole freight, oh my God, that was a nightmare. So, we said this is enough. How are we taking our destiny in our hand? And how are we going to find solutions for ourselves? So how are we looking at cotton? We are now, because post-COVID, the world is not the same. Whether it's a consumer demand, whether it's in the terms of the commodity, everything is now, in a kind of it's completely awry, right? So how are we going to be buying cotton? How are we looking at it? It's the same thing like Forex, How are we going to keep a tab on that is something that we work on a regular basis. So my half an hour every day goes in to keep that check on that as well. So the cotton is very, very important. So yes, it's, these shocks are not in our hands, but it is the absorbers that you can put it on the way, right? And that's what we are doing here. And I think we will continue to do that. There are solutions to really, mitigate those risks, and we will take care of that as well.
That's what we wanted to understand. What's the strategy when events like COVID hit a company, right? And especially a sector which is so focused on laborers at the ground level to marketing at the top level. So thank you so much, Ms. Goenka. It was a lovely conversation, speaking about a whole host of things from business to strategy to life in general. So it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Same here too.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a delight.
Okay, all right. With that, we'll take your leave. And with that, it's back to the studios.
All right, that was an interesting deep dive into Welspun Living. But for the time being, we'll slip into a short break. When you come back, we'll focus on another interesting stock, Ganesha Ecosphere.